My name is Moray. I'm a fashion designer who is obsessed with history. In this series, I talk about partners behind some of the most famous figures in antiquity. And today we're going to be discussing Aurelian. Aurelian did a lot. He fought Gothic tribes. He became a sun god. And he fought leaders like Neva and the Queen of Palmyra, Zenobia, who we're going to be discussing a lot in this video today. However, let's talk about the origins of Aurelian and where he was born. So Aurelian had very humble upbringings, especially considering we have looked at a lot of the Julio-Claudian dynasty who were essentially Nepo babies. Aurelian is said to be born near the modern-day Danube River in Pannonia. His father was a farmer, and his mother, according to the Historia Augusta, was a priestess of Sol, which will be coming up a lot later in this video. Now, while his mother doesn't have a known name, and whether the fact she was a priestess of Sol is unreliable due to the Historia Augusta, we're going to talk a lot about how Aurelian became Sol Invictus and maybe honored her. Let's talk about his career. We do know that Aurelian joined the Roman army age 20 in 2035 AD. He served under Emperor Gallienus, and Gallienus ruled from 253 AD to 268 AD. Aurelian also held a place close to Gallienus and was in Gallienus' inner circle. Now, I am using this timeline to keep myself on track rather than going on tangents because I have a habit of doing that. It is said around this time he married Ulpia Severina. We have coins, but that were at the end of Aurelian's rule. We don't know much about her early life. However, by her name, Ulpia, it suggested that it's a connection to Emperor Trajan, of all people. Severina is thought to have originated from Dacia, where the name Severina originates, especially after Trajan's conquest. And Aurelian and Severina had one daughter named Lucia. Back to Emperor Gallienus, the emperor who ruled from 253 AD to 268 AD, during a really crazy period in Roman history. I mean, most of the periods in Roman history are crazy, but this one was particularly bad. It was marked with internal strife, external threats, and in 268 AD, like most emperors, Gallienus was assassinated. There was a huge power vacuum in the empire. But don't worry, somebody came to replace him, and his name was Claudius Gothicus, or Claudius II Gothicus, if you want to be very pedantic about it. And also, it's confusing because Claudius II Gothicus is referred to as Claudius, and people often think of Claudius as Rome's Claudius as being, well, I Claudius. After Gallienus died, I find it interesting, this little tidbit, that Claudius did place a damnation memorial on his former rival. He actually had him deified, which is very, very strange that he had a rival and he was assassinated, and yet Claudius wanted him as a god. Aurelian fought really hard during Claudius II Gothicus' military campaigns. Aurelian was fighting the Goths and trying to solidify Rome's borders, and by this time, during the crisis of the 3rd century, Rome was so close to being invaded. Under Claudius II Gothicus, Aurelian was promoted to being head of the army, including the Battle of Lake Benicus, and Aurelian established himself as a formidable military strategist. Claudius ended up dying in 270 AD, and again, a power vacuum was formed. Obviously though, Aurelian emerged as the victor, due to the fact that he was very good at countering these Gothic invasions that were invading the bloody empire. Now then, we could discuss leaders like Neva, a Gothic leader, during this time. But because we're doing an emphasis on partners and ladies in Aurelian's life, we're going to talk about one of my favorite historical subjects, Queen Zenobia. Queen Zenobia, who the Historia Augusta speaks beautifully about. According to the Historia Augusta, Queen Zenobia was the most powerful woman. She was said to have intelligence, great spirit, and beauty, and apparently very dark eyes. We need to talk about the context of what Palmyra was up to during the Roman Empire. Palmyra had a very strategic location among the Silk Road during the empire. It was an autonomous region controlled by Rome, and it was the halfway point in between the Roman Empire and the East. Therefore, it was a very important asset to the Roman Empire. During the 2060s, Queen Zenobia wanted more territory than she had. She wanted parts of Egypt, she wanted parts of Asia Minor, and Rome were not happy about this. That's when, in 2070 AD, Aurelian and Zenobia clashed. Aurelian saw that Palmyra having more autonomy was threatening the Roman Empire. It was stopping crucial trade routes and territories. Aurelian already knew that the empire was in a crucial state and that he needed to fortify more borders or Rome would fall even more. Therefore, Aurelian in 271 AD started a campaign in Palmyra to reassert Roman control. Now then, Aurelian was coming off a lot of success. He already won against the Gothic tribes, and he wanted to win in Palmyra. Aurelian's army besieged Palmyra, and Zenobia and her allies resisted. What did Aurelian do? What does Aurelian do with an enemy? Obviously, he captured Queen Zenobia. Even though Aurelian paraded Zenobia, it's said that she had a very normal life after. But this is what I find the most interesting thing about Zenobia. Whilst most enemies would be paraded around Rome, which she was, but then they would be put in an amphitheatre, or beheaded in some kind of gruesome way, or even put into exile, which, if you watch my other videos, you know that exile doesn't often work for your enemies. Instead, we have sources that state she was given a villa in Tivoli, near where Hadrian's villa is. It is alleged from more than one source that Zenobia lived a life of nobility. She married into Roman nobility and lived a good life out in Tivoli. It must say a lot about his character. Following his victory in the East, Aurelian now turned his attention to the Western Empire. Aurelian was successful at reforming the Gallic Empire. How does a man, at the crisis of the 3rd century, who is one of Rome's last hopes, celebrate? He starts a cult, the cult of Sol Invicticus. You see, Sol was an interesting cult to bring back. Not only in this timeline can we see that his mother was alleged, according to the Historia Augusta, a priestess of Sol. However, it was a working class god cult. You had sacerdotes, and he made them a senatorial class, so he upped their status. Despite all of Aurelian's achievements, as what happens in ancient Rome, a lot of the time, poisoned, assassinated. He got assassinated in 275 AD. 75 AD. A secretary forged a document getting the Praetorians to have motivation to murder Aurelian in Thrace. Obviously, a damnatio memoriae was placed on Aurelian. However, later he was then deified, Divinus Aurelianus. In his short reign, Aurelian achieved so much of what other emperors could not. He reunified the empire. He created a good structure. He even was kinder than most to his enemies. Furthermore, it is rumored that his wife, Ulpia Seravina, ruled after his death. So I've made a pact that I'm going to cover every ruler of the empire and ruler of the republic and try and talk with a bit of focus about some of the women and partners in their life that made them. I don't do YouTube for money. It's just my personal learning goal, and that's why I've put these timelines here up above me, so I can learn and absorb everything about Rome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.